Samsung's Neo QLED televisions bring better brightness to the table, enabling them to thrive in bright environments with lots of glare. They are arguably the closest thing you can get to an OLED before switching to that technology. That remains the case with the QN90C. In fact, not much about this experience feels different from the QN90B from the previous year. The experiences essentially mirror each other. Although the panel produces excellent brightness and great color that is consistent across the panel, the television's processor and algorithm are middling to poor at managing dimming zone transitions. Additionally, the operating system is still one of the least customizable on the market and is paired with Samsung's Tizen, which can be difficult to use. I'm particularly upset that Samsung hasn't fixed the local dimming problem because it's so obvious when playing games. There may be obvious flashes when the display tries to determine how much brightness to transmit while entering and leaving menus or moving from dim to bright regions. The picture is startling and unnerving, and it stands out more in HDR footage. As a result, the television is excellent for watching movies and television, but oddly, despite Samsung's built-in support for gaming, this doesn't always translate to games. When it comes to appearance, Samsung televisions rarely let consumers down, and the QN90C is an appealing set in the same vein. The result is a display that seamlessly fits into its surroundings thanks to its minimal bezels and skinny television. If you look closely, you can see that the back of the display is just slightly rounded to provide room for the internals even though it is practically a perfectly narrow rectangle. Samsung modified the stand slightly compared to the QN90B from the previous year so that the portion that is attached to the television is thinner and the entire stand assembly is easier to assemble. Despite being little, it merits note. The QN90C adheres to the Visa wall mount standard for those who prefer not to use a stand. Of all the manufacturers, Samsung's remote control design is definitely my favorite. The remote is not only solar-powered, eliminating the need for batteries, but it is also incredibly compact and simply has the most basic buttons. Although I'm glad to see other companies starting to streamline their remote controls and remove unnecessary features, Samsung has been doing it for years, and it's always a pleasure to behold. There were 4 shortcut buttons on the remote that I was given to review, one each for Netflix, Disney+, Prime Video, and Samsung TV+. The remaining buttons on the remote are limited to the absolute necessities: power, settings, a microphone, volume and channel rockers, a main D-pad, and buttons for pause, play, home, and back. Samsung enjoys having its Samsung TV Plus channel autoplay. Tizen will attempt to put something, anything, on the TV if you aren't currently watching anything or if you turn off a connected device, and that usually means Samsung TV Plus. This site is overflowing with dated sitcoms, niche films, and reality television shows from years past, and there is never anything worth watching. Thankfully, you have the ability to disable or eliminate this channel, therefore I urge you to do it as quickly as possible to prevent the TV from continuously showing you things you don't want to see. Another flaw in Tizen is the user interface for editing pictures. If you remove Samsung TV Plus, you won't actually be able to alter the display from the home screen because Samsung needs a video or audio source to be playing in order to do so. Since most people will want to see how their changes are impacting things before they make a decision, I can kind of understand the company's perspective on this. However, I find it really unusual to entirely disable adjustment. For it comes to Neo QLED displays, Samsung has been completely dominating, and the QN90C is once again fantastic from a color standpoint for viewing movies and television. While you won't get pure blacks like you would with its QD OLED or an OLED from another manufacturer, these televisions are capable of some extreme contrast, and you come very close. This screen can grow incredibly bright, which contributes to its excellent appearance and makes HDR material in particular look spectacular. With the exception of some slight stuttering on some slow-moving content, I didn't notice any judder at all on anything I displayed, and on-screen graphics were incredibly smooth. Despite the QN90C's reasonable success in increasing the 4K panel's resolution, low bitrate video blocking is still discernible. In my panel test, I discovered that the QN90C had an average delta E of slightly over 2.5 and could cover 98% of sRGB, 79.1% of Adobe RGB, and 93.1% of DCI-P3. Those are quite good numbers for a television. Even better, the performance is consistent from edge to edge, as demonstrated by the excellent results of my standard 9:5 uniformity test. On paper, the QN90C is an excellent gaming television since it offers very little input latency, quick response times, and support for various refresh rates. Most of the time, I believe single-player action or adventure game players will be completely satisfied with what this television has to offer. The fantastic game bar from Samsung is back and can be accessed by holding down the pause play button while a connected gaming device is in use. You can control how the television communicates with any attached systems from here, as well as view all of the television's current settings, including frame rate and resolution. This and LG are likely tied for the finest gaming menu UI implementation. Samsung has done a great job of maximizing the available space in the incredibly thin chassis of this television. While lows still aren't quite where I would like them to be, which has an impact on movies where rumble and bass are crucial, it's entirely acceptable for the majority of casual viewing. The normal consumer will probably be satisfied with what the QN90C can do and will likely enjoy watching sports and regular television because it sounds fantastic. Although Samsung's Amplify sound mode actually makes a positive change, I still personally advise getting at least a soundbar to better separate music and speech, as those can frequently get lost and are still one of the most common complaints from people without a separate audio solution. Samsung is still charging a lot for the QN90C, despite the fact that it has good color and brightness, which puts it in a difficult position when compared to the competition. Even though this is employing a mini LED system, the 65-inch model typically costs around $2,400, while the 55-inch model costs around $1,700. This is a significant investment and encroaches on OLED territory. The 65-inch Samsung QN90C can be purchased for the same price as the 65-inch LG C3, and there aren't many circumstances in which I'd choose the Samsung over the LG. The Samsung QN90C shares many characteristics with the QN90B from a year ago, including a stunning TV with superb picture quality, a similar list of drawbacks, and similarly odd price compared to the competition. This makes it difficult to suggest it to pretty much anyone because it is too expensive to be a viable OLED panel substitute and performs worse than less expensive televisions in terms of customization and dimming performance. It's still a fantastic TV. Samsung has just put it in an uncompetitive price range.